First off, you testified in Texas on Tuesday about the photo ID law here in Georgia. What did you tell the Texas lawmakers, and how do you feel the law has worked here in Georgia?
Well, I think it's worked real well in Georgia. I was actually testifying for the representative who's carrying the photo ID legislation out there, and I didn't really try to tell the Texas legislature what to do, but mainly was letting them know how the implementation went here in Georgia and gave them really a lot of facts and figures on, how the turnouts have increased since that. There's been, pretty large numbers of minority participation since the photo ID bill was introduced, which I think kind of shocks a lot of people because part of the arguments against it were, it's going to keep minorities from going to vote, and that clearly has not happened. So they were very satisfied with what we had to say.
A question related to voting. I was looking, and they wanted me to speak directly to early, trimming the early voting period.
Right.
I saw that the Senate okayed a bill to cut early voting by 2 weeks, but then they talked about the difference between early and advanced voting. If you can briefly explain the difference between the two, and then what do you think will happen with the early voting cuts?
Right. Well, right now you can vote 45 days before the election by mail or in person. The legislation that's in the General Assembly this year is to reduce that 45 days only for the in-person. You'll still be able to mail in a ballot 45 days before the election. So this is simply reducing the in-person early voting, which is what a lot of the counties have asked for to help them reduce cost. The House passed a bill that takes it down to 3 weeks, including a Saturday. The Senate took it down to 2 weeks, and I don't think their bill includes a Saturday. So there's still a little negotiating to see what ends up passing. But I believe at the end of the day there will be something that passes that shortens only the in-person early voting.
Kind of moving on to a different topic. The state passed last year the fees bill. Mm-hmm. How do you feel that's impacted the number of corporations in Georgia, and do you think we're going to see a bounce back after the economy recovers?
Well, I think it's a little too early to tell about the fee increase because people are just now starting to renew their corporation and paying that fee. We have seen last year we actually had a little uptick from 2 previous down years in the number of corporations in Georgia. So that was a positive sign that it started coming back in 2010. I would think that this year that would increase a little bit more as the economy starts to turn, and we certainly hope so.
Are you proposing any legislation this session?
Really don't have a big legislative package. We've got a couple of things that, I've been real involved in the bill to reduce the in-person early voting, not really advocating for it, but working with the legislature to make sure that we can come up with a good bipartisan compromise. I think that's very important for us as we try to, we'll have to get that pre-cleared by the Justice Department before we can implement that. The only thing we really have to do this year is we've got to change the 2012 primary date because of state law now says it'll be on a certain date that when it was done 10 years ago, it was fine, but now it actually puts us in violation of the MOVE Act on the 45 days to get ballots to our military. So we've got to change that date, but it's only going to make a couple of week difference in the primary in 2012 than what it normally has been. So it's really not controversial. We've talked to the majority leaders and the minority leaders, and everybody seems to be on board with that.
Your predecessor, Karen Handel, was big on making cuts, and you said during your speech earlier that, your department has cut 30%. Is there anywhere else you can cut, or do you see other agencies that can cut in the state that we need to see?
Well, I think there's other agencies that can be streamlined. I know right now Gary Black, the new Agriculture Commissioner, for the first time ever, the Department of Agriculture is actually taking credit card payments. That's hard to believe that it's taken this long, but, so I think there's agencies where he'll be able to find efficiencies like in the Department of Agriculture, and I think there's others that can do that. We're kind of at the the point of diminishing returns in the Secretary of State's office because we've been so proactive over the last couple of years. But there are a couple of things that we're still eyeing to make us more efficient, and we're studying that right now. And hopefully in the next 6 to 8 months we'll have an idea of whether that's a smart move for us to make or not.
As the economy has been recovering some, do you kind of feel like 2 years from now, 5 years from now, Georgia will be in very good position?
Well, I think we're in good position now, even as tough as it is. When you look around compared to some other states, I mean, we're not having 60,000 people, protesting at our state capitol like is happening in other states around the country, and I think that's because we've been proactive. I think Georgians understand that we can't spend more than we make, and we're going to continue to balance the budget without raising taxes, and I think that's what people expect us to do. Now, over the next couple of years, I think we will recover as long as, our leaders in Washington will make some tough decisions and not continue to lead us down a path of no return. And if that happens, I think Georgia will be poised to do very well. I think the one thing that will be slow to come back is the housing industry. It was just so overbuilt. I think it's going to be a very slow recovery. Even though this year's projected to be better, it's just going to take us a few years to continue to get product off the market and get folks back moving again.
He was talking about your work with the Hope Scholarship. What would you like to see done with the Hope Scholarship?
Well, I think from what Governor Deal put together is really they're moving in the right direction. I think most common sense people understand there's got to be cuts made to Hope because the money's simply not there. We cannot continue as a government to give everything to everybody and afford to pay for it. It's just a fiscal reality. And I think the governor did a great job of putting together a bipartisan bill, and it has bipartisan support. There was only 20 people that voted against it in the House. So I think they're very close to where they need to be, and I think there may be a few more adjustments as the bill moves through the process, but I think you're going to see it be pretty close to what it is right now at the end of the day.
What do you think will inevitably happen? What do you think the final product will look like?
Well, I think it'll be much like it is now, that they're going to reduce the full scholarship for folks that have a B average from 100% to 90, and take away, I think, books and fees, and I think those things will remain in there. But the end of the day, we're still going to have Hope. We're still going to have pre-K. It's a great program, and the governor's helped preserving it, and I applaud that.